Hello and welcome to ASMR Ghost Stories. If you enjoy stories about the paranormal or the mysterious or unexplained, welcome. You've come to the right channel. So before you put on your headphones to enjoy this ASMR experience, go ahead and click the subscribe button. And if you like it, hit that like button. It really does let me know that you're enjoying these types of stories. And hit the notification bell because I do upload on Mondays and Thursdays. So all my stories are read either in soft spoken or whispered form. So today it is soft spoken. So lay back, you can watch the candle, close your eyes, whichever you would like, and we're going to journey over to Scotland. Now, I really enjoyed this story. I travel to Scotland as much as I can. It's one of my favorite places in the world. And I did get to see this stone that was placed. It's in Dornoch, Scotland, and it's where the last witch was burned at the stake, as far as I know. Janet Horne, the last witch in Scotland. Janet Horne was the last person to be executed in Scotland for being a witch. This is a very sad story of a poor old woman with senile dementia who was burned alive for consorting with the devil. Scotland was one of the worst places to be accused of being a witch, with an execution rate 5 times higher than the rest of Europe. Let's look at the story of Janet Horne. Who was Janet Horne? Her actual name is unknown. Janet Horne, or Jenny Horne, was the name given to all Scottish witches. Given that the Janet in our story suffered from severe mental health problems, the authorities who ordered her death likely did not know her real name. What could be found out about our Janet Horne is that she was a maid for a lady and traveled abroad to Italy with her before settling down in Dornoch. Janet married and had a daughter who was unfortunately born with deformed hands and feet resembling a pony's hooves. Moving to Kentridwell, Janet relocated to the village of Kentridwell just north of Barora in North Scotland. This was the beginning of the end for poor Janet. The locals saw her as an incomer and looked at Janet with suspicion and hostility. Who knows why the locals were so aggressive towards Janet? Perhaps she took someone's job or lived in a home that someone else wanted. There must have been some incentive behind her witch hunt. Accusations of witchcraft. In the 1700s, the local population still believed in fairies. Children born with physical deformities were known as changelings, or children taken by the fairies and replaced with a deformed alternative. Deformed children were often held over fires as a form of exorcism or left on the beach to drown. That's horrible. In the case of Janet, the locals accused her of transforming her daughter into a pony, her hoof-like hands given as proof of a failed attempt to restore her to human form. Her neighbors accused Janet of riding her daughter like a pony after she had been shod by the devil. Captain David Ross. Both Janet and her daughter were incarcerated within the toll booth in Dornoch, which was once the chapter house of the nearby Dornoch Cathedral. Deputy Sheriff David Ross put Janet and her daughter on trial, exceeding his authority on the matter, and failed to inform the king's advocate, Robert Dundas of Arniston, who may have put an end to the charade of a trial. Witch's trial. One of the tests Janet had to pass was to recite the Lord's Prayer in Gaelic. Unfortunately, she made a mistake. Now, I'm not even going to try to attempt to speak Gaelic, but it is here in the article, and then it has the English version, so I'm just going to read the English version. So this is where she made a mistake in the Gaelic form. She stated, "Our Father who wert, W-E-R-T, in heaven, instead of Our Father who art, A-R-T, in heaven." This simple error was regarded as positive proof that Janet was in league with the devil. She was sentenced to death for violating the Witchcraft Act 1563. There is a good chance that Janet had senile dementia and would have been wholly incapable of passing any tests given to her or being of sound mind to defend herself adequately. Janet's daughter managed to escape, knowing full well the fate that awaited her had she remained with her poor mother. Janet had been sentenced to be burned alive the following day. Janet Horne's burning. Janet was stripped, I don't know if I'm able to say the word, but I'll spell it, N-A-K-E-D, covered in tar and dusted with feathers, then carted around Dornoch within the tar barrel. And it's funny, I'm going to digress for a second. I had heard stories that because of her dementia and she didn't realize where she was headed, she was waving at everyone like it was a parade, and she was so happy. She had no idea, even when she went up to the fire. It said that she was warming her hands by the fire, not realizing what is about to happen. So let's continue. She was taken to Littletown, part of Dornoch, and upon seeing the fire that would be her end, she commented, "Eh, what a bonny blaze," furthering the theory she had no idea of what was about to happen. She commented that it was such a good fire and that her neighbors who gathered around it made such a cheerful sight. Janet Horne did not understand what was about to happen and warmed herself by the fire. Most witches were first, I'm going to spell the word just because, STRANGLED to DEATH, because I don't know how YouTube feels about using that certain vocabulary. So, well, let's continue. So she was that to unalivement before burning, but it said Janet Horne was burnt alive. Janet Horne Memorial Stone, the Witch's Stone. Known locally as the Witch's Stone, it commemorates the burning of Janet Horne and marks the location of the fire that killed, I can't say that word, that unalived her. No one knows who erected the stone, but the date of 1722 engraved on the stone is accepted as being incorrect. The burning occurred in 1727. This could mean that the stone was placed there much later, with no one knowing the exact date Janet was executed. A board provided by History Links Museum exists near the stone. There is a quote claiming she testified against her impending unalivement. I have to change my words. And it quotes, "I've tried to lead a good life, but my people are strangers to me now. My girl has a twisted hand, and they whisper terrible things about us. Why do they hate us so?" I find this quote suspicious. If her real name, her daughter's name, and other facts about Janet Horne did not survive, I doubt such a long quote would have survived over hundreds of years. All of the known evidence points to her suffering from senility. It's doubtful she could defend herself with that short but eloquent speech. Instead of a place of quiet contemplation of the horrors that occurred here 295 years ago, the site of the stone is often mobbed by tourists gobbling ice creams purchased in the now tourist-oriented Dornoch. I have to digress there for a minute. I am that tourist. But I wasn't eating when I went there. I went to a coffee place. If you get the chance, it is, I believe it's, oh gosh, the name, it's Chocolate Mountain or Dornoch Chocolate Mountain, something like that. But if you like coffee, the chocolate they use in it is amazing, and it goes down the side of the cup, so you can just lick it off. Amazing. So I had my coffee before I went to the stone because I wanted to be, somewhat quiet and into myself. It was a beautiful day, and it's just a short walk from down the main downtown area by the cathedral. Just a short walk, and it's a beautiful little neighborhood that you walk through. So let me get back to the story. Let's see, where was I? Oh yeah. Janet's death has become a local legend and a tale of horror to delight in, designed to attract more tourists like myself. Using these horrible tales to increase tourism never sits well with me. Oh, now I feel bad. The same happened on the tour of the underground vaults in Edinburgh, with the tour guide gleefully telling us about child torture. I've been on all the underground vaults tours in Edinburgh, which are fantastic. That'll be on another story. Where is the Witch's Stone located? The Witch's Stone could be found on Carnac Street within the garden of number 13. It is within easy walking distance from the center of Dornoch or from Dornoch Beach caravan site. Janet Horne's daughter. Little information exists on what happened to Janet's daughter. Why did she not take her mother with her? Where did she go? Could Janet's daughter have been involved with the memorial stone? The Countess of Sutherland is said to have written an account of the story of Janet Horne to Sir Walter Scott. She mentions that the daughter's grandson lived on her family estate and had the same genetic hand malformation, so perhaps the rest of her life was filled with love. I really hope it was. Very little is known about Janet Horne's husband. Repeal of the Witchcraft Act 1563. In 1736, 9 years after Janet Horne's shameful burning, Parliament repealed the statutes against. Let me go back. I said statues. I meant statutes against witchcraft acts. It was no longer an offense punishable by unalivement. However, you could still be arrested and imprisoned if you were accused of witchcraft. Some factions of the church did not agree with the Parliamentary Act, exclaiming it was a national sin and contrary to the law of God, as within the Bible. Exodus chapter 22 verse 18 says, they spelled it wrong, but it's okay. Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. Despite the law being relaxed, Dornoch was still a very superstitious place. Donald Mackey unalived a woman in 1738, claiming she could transform into a hare, and therefore she was a witch. He now was hung for this crime, and a plaque marks the spot of his unalivement at Gallow Hill. It's a sad state of affairs that the name of the unalived woman was not recorded, but the story of Donald Mackey remains. Surprisingly, the Act of 1736 was not completely repealed until 1951 with the Fraudulent Mediums Act. An official apology. It's thought that as many as 4,000 innocent women were found guilty of witchcraft in Scotland, and around 2,500 were unalived, according to a study by the University of Edinburgh. This year, Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon formally apologized to women accused of witchcraft between the 16th and 18th centuries. At a time when, quote unquote, at a time when women were not allowed to speak as witnesses in a courtroom, they were accused and unalived because they were poor, different, vulnerable, or in many cases just because they were women. It was injustice on a colossal scale. And there is a poem, but I'm going to jump on down to what could lead to an accusation of witchcraft. So here are a few things. Being a healer, midwife, and having knowledge of herbs to make medicine. Having a physical deformity such as a hunchback or facial wart. Being over 40 and living alone. They have no children. Childless women were often blamed for the sickness or death of children in the community. Having sex outside of marriage, talking to yourself, not dressing smartly enough, associating with someone else accused of being a witch, being left-handed. Conclusion: How lucky are we to live in a time where people can get a fair trial and aren't just executed on the whispers and superstitions of evil neighbors. It's a sobering thought that Janet Horne's story is just one example of witch hunts in Scotland out of thousands. And there you have it. Thoughts? Any stories of your own? Comment below or send me an email. I'd love to read some of your stories on future broadcasts. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like it, hit that notification bell. Until then, stay just a little scared, and I'm going to let the candle run in this video for another few minutes, so just enjoy, be relaxed, and just kind of soak up the story of Janet Horne. Until then,